Good afternoon, Instagram family. I'm Michelle Peel, the Communications Director here at New Jersey LCV, and we're back. I'm here with Ed Potosnik, my favorite Executive Director.
Thank you.
And we're going to be talking again about the common agenda. And today we're going to be talking about safeguarding drinking water, which is very important and is even a part of our mission. So, Ed, tell us why this topic, safeguarding drinking water, is so important and why it's a part of our common agenda. But I realize I'm jumping the gun. At first, you're supposed to talk about the common agenda and what it is and why it's important. What is it?
Yeah, so the Common Agenda is a project that we put together with lots of partner organizations based in communities, from the faith community to improve New Jersey's environment. We come up every year with 5 priorities to be passed over the course of a 2-year legislative session. And we work diligently together to use our political muscle and the muscle of the organization and voters across the state to advance protections. And this year we have 5 different priorities. One of them is 100% clean electricity by 2035, safeguarding clean drinking water, which we're going to talk about today, advancing voting rights to ensure that no one has any barriers to voting and everyone can have their voice be heard in elections. Additionally, protecting our open spaces. In the most densely populated state, that's critically important for future generations. And then the number one emitter of greenhouse gases is transportation. So reducing emissions from the transportation sector, like electrifying our buses and cars and trucks.
So, as we said, today we're going to be talking about safeguarding drinking water. Give us the state of where water is right now in New Jersey.
Well, I think we're really lucky. New Jersey is a very water-rich state. Our water is abundant, it's clean, it's affordable, and we want to keep it that way. I think with climate change, we're seeing more intense and frequent storms. We're seeing more flooding events, and we've got to get a handle on our stormwater infrastructure. We're big supporters of a stormwater utility, which helps collect funds for a $16 billion problem to protect homes and businesses from flooding, put in green infrastructure to hold on to the water, but also cleaned up to take out the contaminants from the pollution and protect families from the flooding that would occur. New Jersey also has some pollution. Unfortunately, New Jersey it's number 2 in the country for a toxic chemical known as PFAS or PFOA. They're perfluoroalkyl substances. We call them forever chemicals. They're found in all kinds of stuff like fire retardants, in drapes and couches, also firefighting foam that's used on the runways. And once they get in the water supply, they get into our bodies, they stay in our bodies, they sometimes get excreted, end up back in the water supply, find their way back into our bodies again. The water cycle is a persnickety one for the forever chemicals. New Jersey led the nation in the strictest standard for these chemicals that cause cancer and other problems. And now, luckily, the federal government is also setting a standard. And we have other chemicals on our list that we want to address. In the area of this priority, particularly clean drinking water, lead is a real hazard. Most of the lead that children are exposed to comes from their environment, meaning lead paint in their houses. And there is a new law that went into effect to test homes to make them safe, but also 50% of the houses in New Jersey, folks are renters, and it's important that they know if their house has lead in the water they drink, which can happen from old plumbing, etc. And so there's a bill that we're advancing that will ensure that homeowners and renters know what's in their water, and if their lead contains water, they'll be notified, and then they can obviously take steps to remediate that by replacing plumbing at the source of the lead contamination or put in a filtration system. Additionally, we talked about stormwater, but New Jersey has some of its water infrastructure that dates back from before the Civil War. So this means wooden pipes flowing through cities. That means they're ticking time bombs for us. They're also leaking. Some towns leak as much as half of their water from the source to the tap. And that means that folks that are paying for city water are paying twice what they should be because the water is literally leaking out of the pipes and the infrastructure. That's about a $30 billion problem in our state. And we think it's really important to invest in that to save money, but also to ensure that we have clean and safe and reliable drinking water for our future. The economy depends on it. New Jersey has a very robust pharmaceutical industry, research and manufacturing, And they need clean drinking water to make those products. If you've ever flown into Newark Airport and you've seen the Budweiser facility, the reason that's there is because our water is cheaper than New York City water. It's better, and they put the brewery right there to, sort of provide beer, might say a staple, to the tri-state area. And that's something that we have to hold on to. We want that business to be in New Jersey. But we've got to step up our game on investments in the infrastructure, get out contaminants, and also notice families and businesses if there's lead in their water and require that notice. It shouldn't be something you're surprised about. Lead in drinking water, and that disclosure bill is critical for us to pass. It's one of the number one priorities for our members, but little people, our youngest, are very negatively impacted by exposure to lead. It slows down their ability to learn, and it holds them back from earning potential, working potential at a very young age. And we need to make sure it doesn't get in their blood supply through their drinking water, and that legislation is going to be key to that, and it's important for us.
Now, you mentioned this earlier, stormwater utilities. That's
Yeah.
a big deal for us. Actually, that's what brought me here to work on this and to get the word out about it. But tell us a little bit more about why you think having stormwater utilities is the way to go for so many towns.
Yeah, so New Jersey is the most densely populated state in our nation, which means we have the most impervious cover, concrete, pavement, other hardened surfaces. And when the water hits it, rain, it doesn't have a chance to get absorbed. That means it doesn't become part of our clean drinking water supply, and instead it runs over these hardened surfaces. It picks up contaminants like oil from cars, other kinds of pollution that falls from the air or in neighborhoods, and then it makes its way into our stormwater drains and then out into our rivers and streams and causes flooding. The water doesn't have a chance to get filtered by the land, and therefore that water is contaminated. It's polluted stormwater runoff. I should say, most of the development in our state is development from our parents and grandparents and folks before us. Most of the development that happens today is done in a way that's consistent with nature so that we can handle stormwater on site to clean it up and retain it so it doesn't flood our neighborhoods and doesn't pollute our drinking water. But unfortunately, New Jersey is older, and much of its housing stock, much of its development, its roads, bridges, businesses, etc., are older, and they were built without any mind of stormwater. Houses there, you think about it in all of our towns, these houses that are built, and the water just flows right out onto the roads or down the drains. And that's something that we need to turn the hands of time back on, to put in adequate stormwater infrastructure so that the development, we're seeing 17% of our state is impervious cover, that we can hold on to that water when a storm comes and clean it up before we release it back into the environment. That's going to save us time and money from flooding. It's also going to protect the drinking water supply.
And stormwater utilities, of course, can help provide the funding to do that.
Oh, absolutely. So the basic premise is that the more impervious surface you have, the more you would pay to mitigate the stormwater that's running off your property, to clean it up and absorb it like a sponge. So stormwater utility charges a small fee based on the amount of impervious coverage that you have. Generally, businesses have the most, they end up paying the most. Places that have implemented it have charged on average around $6 a month over the course of the year for a single family home. The great thing about the stormwater utility legislation, we call it the Clean Stormwater and Flood Reduction Act, is that it also requires municipalities to give you a credit if you reduce the amount of stormwater leaving your property. So for example, if you put in a rain garden or you have rain barrels and you hold onto that water and help it to absorb or help until the water runs off slowly, you can actually get a credit and pay less. And right now there's no incentive to pay less to do the right thing. And there's no way to collect funds to do what we know needs to do from the previous development to protect our communities. And so we see stormwater utilities as an important component to provide the much needed $16 billion of funding across the state. Not all at once, but over time slowly to move through projects that are going to protect communities. And the other thing I'll mention about a stormwater utility, it is required by law to be equitable, which means the people who pollute the most, who have the most stormwater, will actually pay the most. And the people who produce the least will pay the least. It has to be in reference to how much you've polluted. So it's that polluters pays principle.
Right. So we've talked about water, how important it is. Do you have any closing thoughts about that, just as we think about water. It's such a basic thing that sometimes we take it for granted.
Well, I mean, 80% of us is water. So that means that we have to drink a lot of it. We're filtering a lot of it through our bodies. We need to be as clean as possible. It's important for our health. It's important for the health of our children, but it's also important for the health of our economy. I mentioned, manufacturing, research and development, everything from beers and wines to good food, all are dependent on clean drinking water. And we need to be doing a better job in our state. I think we're doing okay, but there are some real opportunities for us, and simple things like noticing and testing for lead contamination in your drinking water should be a no-brainer, but we need to pass a bill to make that a reality.
Yeah. Well, thank you once again. And before we leave, we always say, what's the ask? We like to talk to our viewers about what we think and how they can get involved.
Well, we need your help. I mentioned the bill to get lead testing done for homes that are either owned or homes that are rented. It's critically important that people have information that aren't, drinking contaminated water. And we think it's a no-brainer, but even the easy things are hard to pass through the legislature. So if you can join us by visiting njlcv.org and sign up to take action and send in a letter or an email to your elected official, it would mean a lot to help them understand that this is a priority for you as a voter in your community to pass a law to require disclosure to homeowners and renters and the testing to see if there's lead in their drinking water so they can take proper steps to avoid the toxic poisoning that could occur. And we need your help. It's not going to be easy. It takes all of us, and please join us in this effort to protect our future generations from contamination.
So thank you once again for joining us, and next time we're going to talk about voting rights. Have a good evening.
Look forward to then.